Good morning, heart and soul. It's good to be back. I've missed you, but I am so very grateful for both Reverend D. Jacqueline Edwards and for Reverend Angelo Allen, because they wore it out, yes? Yes. We could have spun that another time. I'd be home resting, I think, now. As it turns out, I am bringing as much energy as I have this morning because I've only been home less than 36 hours. But let me just say the difference, though, that this very specific time away has been. I was in Italy and I was expected to, whenever it was, I was supposed to leave. My flight was canceled, so I ended up having to stay another day. But that next day, there was a planned transportation strike. And so I was aware of that, and I thought, oh, I'm so grateful that my flight leaves the day before. And so when it was canceled, but what I noticed was the absence of just a basic anxiety. You know, I know that there has been a place in me that could have wore me out. Just the idea of it. Now, it did not, I don't know, because it was a planned transportation strike, the union was to do it just during certain times, if you understand what I mean. So it wasn't just the full on, it was like the warning strike, so to speak, a shot from the bow. But that still would have been enough for me to be that far away from home. But I noticed just the ease of it all. There was something else. Oh, I know what else. And can I just do a quick public service announcement? I am allergic to kiwi. And I don't remember how long it's been, but I like kiwi. And I remember having a conversation with my doctor a good while ago, because it doesn't come up that often here, that I wasn't going to worry about it because I could deal with the allergic response. And he said, well, that tends to evolve over time. And so although it feels like it's manageable now, it could, the next experience of it, it could get increasingly worse. So it doesn't come up that often, and I typically just avoid it. But after my time, I was on a spiritual retreat in Damanhur, and I'm just going to share a couple of things about that in a minute. But after that, I went to Milan, and the very first morning, I had a fruit salad. Didn't even think about it. I couldn't see the kiwi because it was yellow kiwi. And so now I'm going to have a little EpiPen conversation. But even that, I mention it to you, one, so if you're playing with some kind of little allergic reaction, you can have an awareness of maybe choosing not to play with it. But even that did not blow it. You know, I just still was able to deal with it. You know, went to the pharmacy. I just did the things I needed to do and trust in the process. And so that I could go on and on. What I want to share with you, though, is that I spent just over a week in Damanhur, which the name itself is taken from a city in Egypt. And there's so many. I feel like this year, I'm on this this trek of awakening, very specifically planned. So it was Bali at the end of 23. What year is this? 25. So the end of 23, and then to Peru. Very specifically planned Peru and then Egypt, because these are certain, for me, awakening places. There are places all over the world. For me, Peru, Egypt, Bali, Peru, Egypt, and Damanhur. All particularly Peru, Egypt, and Damanhur have so much in common that is mind-blowing and really confirms in many ways the one peoples. So in this community of Damanhur, what is unusual, when I first heard of it, I said, I'm going. And I could not have told any of you what it was about. Sometimes my life is just like that. I will have an awareness of something and I'll know it's for me. But I won't have any details, so I won't be able to tell anyone. And even if I research the details, what I notice is I don't remember them, because that's not the point. So I knew I was going, kind of no matter what. Damanhur, the pictures you see, you really are seeing 3 different temples. All of this is underground. It's about 300,000 cubic feet, and it's about 100 feet underground. And for about 20 years almost, ish, it was hidden. So there's a temple or house above, but everything, all of the spaces in which they worshiped had been secretly dug out. So no permits, none of the stuff. And it was discovered, I think, in 1991, early 1992. Somebody told is what it amounts to, and the police came and they couldn't even find where it was. But through a process there, they agreed to show them, and that's how it was really determined. But it's an amazing structure underground. So the pictures you see, like on the left, you could stand under like this dome, and it's all painted. The artwork, it's absolutely breathtaking, awe-inspiring. Tears could just flow because I've never in my life experienced the visual impact and the spiritual impact of folks who dug it out by hand. And there's all kind of little secret places. There was a point at which our teacher and tour guide took us into a little area, and he said, well, where's the other? Where could you go from here other than just the same way? And it wasn't obvious, but something said, I said, oh, I know, it's right here. And he said, okay, show me. So I I knew it was there, but you had to touch it just right in order for it to open. And so he kept working with me. He said, you're right, but you got to open it. And so I was like, the way it opened didn't make sense to my expectation. But that was the intention. That if someone was in there who was not intended to know that that was also an exit, oh, it's amazing. The thing that I will share with you is that we had a couple of silent meditations in the temple with our special group. I don't know how often they do whatever they do. I'm told that was a special offering for us. And our teacher played a gong. I need new language because played a gong does not do it justice. I mean, I'm saying played a gong, but that's not what happened. He was able to get sounds out of this that I'm sure transformed the planet in so doing. So I come to you today just absolutely full. The middle picture, I know it's probably more difficult for y'all to tell, but there are several what they call temples of humankind. So it's temples is plural because there's a temple of mirrors where the whole room is just mirrors. Then there's this hall that is like dedicated to all of the spiritual teachers that we have never even heard of or seen, but they're the pictures and they're animals and plants and the connectivity of oneness. And to be in that was amazing. Did I mention the gongs? Yeah. I meant to. So that meant that I was also in Italy for Juneteenth, which meant that it was hard to tell and I had lost track of time. But what I want to make sure that we speak to is part of this is like this theme for me that is establishing this same audacity, the audacity to begin again. How throughout life there are those things that for many, if not all of us have had an experience that it looks like that would be the end. If that happens, that would be the end. And yet there are all these opportunities for us to claim the audacity to begin again. To acknowledge, yeah, that happened. And, yeah, that happened. And. So it's not, you don't have to deny that we went through it because there's something about it that probably gave us something. Let me not try to name it for you. But whatever it is, it has left us with something. Now, don't try to rush to judgment. You don't have to figure out what it gives you on the day that it happens. It may take a decade. It may take 2 decades before you can read the tea leaves around it, yes? Does that make sense, y'all? That life is unfolding. So Juneteenth serves that up for us in a way. Because when we think about the setting for this, we have the Emancipation Proclamation, which is effective in 1863. But we have Juneteenth, which is effective June 19th, 1865. And we have that because of the intentional, purposeful unwillingness to honor the law. Period, full stop. So, in many places, and let's be clear that we're only talking about Confederate territory because that's where it's happening. This is we talk about slavery being outlawed, and that's not exactly true. It's true for specific places that are named. So, but regardless, in the westernmost Confederate state, Texas specifically, they had not honored it. And there was really no way to enforce it because remember, the Confederate States had abdicated. And so you couldn't, there wasn't any. So now you have Union troops who are now sent by executive order, and they're coming out to tell. And it's about, the estimate is about 250,000 enslaved African Americans who are just getting the word 2 years later, or a year and a half later, anyhow. And that's how, of course, this is what we're honoring. On Juneteenth, we are celebrating, and we don't have to limit it, much like Kwanzaa. We don't have to just speak about it or lift it up in our heart mind during a season, because this is a place to begin again. You see what I'm saying? This is over 200 years of enslavement, and now you have what amounts to the Reconstruction is what's about to unfold, and that's a whole begin again. And then, of course, you have that reversed, and there's another begin again. And so if you can appreciate history, you can see the pattern, the call for humanity to begin again. I also want to talk just a little bit to remind you that on December 31st of 1862, so this is the eve of the Emancipation Proclamation coming out. So they didn't have no social media, and nobody was texting and reminding folks, but there was this awareness, the word, everyone was waiting for it to happen. So it's like on New Year's Eve how we wait for the ball to drop. Well, they're waiting for the word on the Emancipation Proclamation. And that is the history, the origin of the New Year's Eve watch service. They were watching and waiting for that word that this is real, that this is really happening. Now, I don't know the degree to which, and this would be an interesting piece of research to do at some point, and I love doing some historical research about what was happening in Texas. Because in many places, as I told you, that's the beginning of that practice that even we have done, our New Year's Eve service, because what it would always include is looking at the past and looking forward to a new future. And when I think about the origin of that, that changes it, doesn't it? It weights it in such a positive, intentional way. Yes? All right. So we're celebrating, we're celebrating Pride, we're celebrating Juneteenth, we're celebrating Summer Solstice. And summer solstice, of course, marks the longest day of the year. Excuse me. And it has a great spiritual significance because it's a potent time for birthing new energy. So you can begin to see how our begin again idea, this notion of the stance we're going to take. That life happens, stuff happens, we get hurt, we're in pain, we're betrayed, we're whatever life, you get fired, you get let go, you get divorced, you get left, you get whatever it is that folks have. Have I named enough stuff for everybody? So whatever it is that happens, there's a point in time where we can discern, yeah, that happened, and I can begin again. I can start from another point. I can move in mind and in spirit to a more empowering place. So summer solstice, that exact moment was on Friday. Well, I was in flight at 7:42 Pacific time. And this is our most fertile time of year. Let's take advantage of it. The symbolism, the metaphor of it all. Yes, this is our most fertile time of year. It ushers in a powerful season of opportunity. It's also like a mid-year sacred pause. Yeah, I feel like that's what I've had, a moment to reset, realign, and begin blooming again. This is how we are going to start out with this idea. My talk today is the audacity to begin again. But I'm going to ask Takia and Thomas to start us off with this, because I think there's a way to begin again. And an aspect of this can absolutely be the awareness that wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we walk in the love of God. It won't necessarily feel like that all the time, but it'll be the truth all of the time. One love, there can only be God's love. This is Ricky Byers here. Yes. Oh, yes, I know that I walk in the love of God. Yes, I walk. Say this with me. Yes, I walk in the love of God. Takia Franklin and Thomas Hughes.
There is a power,
come on,
a presence, one life of all, and no other power can exist outside of the infinite. One love, there can only be God's love. Oh yes, I know that I walk, oh yes, I walk in the love of God. There is a wisdom and a knowing, a loving and a truth. Whatever you need to know will come in God's way for you. Just stay until it shows. I'll pray. I won't move until I know, oh, that I walk in the love of God. For the power and the glory and the love of God is everywhere. I know in my heart, yes, the power and the glory and the love of God is everywhere. I see it, it's everywhere. I can feel it, it's everywhere. And I know in my heart, yes, I walk in the love of God. There is a power and a presence, one life of all, and no other power can exist outside of the infinite one love. There can only be God's love. Oh yes, I know that I walk. Oh yes, I walk in the love. Yes, I walk in the love. Yes, I walk in the love of God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Takia Franklin and Thomas Hughes. Doing Ricky Byers just right. Did y'all feel that part of the lyric that says, I won't move until I know? We ought to just lay out right here on the floor. I won't move until I know. Are y'all willing to try that on for size? I mean, just the notion of I'm not going to move until I know that I walk in the love of God. And I'm going to do, because I'm going to set up my life in such a way that I'll have the information, the resources, the access, the reminders. I'll have affirmations. I'll have songs. I'll have books and movies, and I don't know what y'all will have. I know I got my stuff. But you'll set up your life in such a way where, here's the thing we're sure to forget. Well, let me not be in your Kool-Aid. I have forgotten. Straight up. Decades. I was on this Italy tour, was with ministers largely. And so it comes up, how long you've been in ministry? And I'm like, well, let me just do a little arithmetic. And so this is actually my 21st year in ministry. But look, thank you very much. And I don't know how much of that is valley time. And you know what I call valley time is the time when I forget. The time when I fall off the train. You know, sometimes I'm leading it like, come on, here's, and then they be, where's she at? All off in the valley, haven't forgotten what's she doing down there. And y'all are off leading the way. And at some point I catch up. And you allow me to go to the front like I haven't just come from the depths of whatever it is? Yes? So we forget. So life unfolds in a way that we have this selective amnesia. Maybe it's just you and me, baby. Because the people in here, they're acting like they don't know nothing about what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to tune in. It's just us telling the truth. That there are those moments truly of selective amnesia where what we knew last week, and maybe we're teaching others. You know how we teach spontaneously. Sometimes we got a whole curriculum and syllabus and all this stuff. And sometimes it's just spontaneously on BART. Yeah? Just at the coffee shop, in line at Starbucks or Pete's or whatever your preference is. You just hear teaching in the moment. Yes? And then walk outside and have amnesia. All that oneness you just spoke of and clarity from the affirmation and the class you took. And I mean, just stated it clearly. And then somebody crossed your path and amnesia. No recollection of oneness. You don't know what's happening. This world is going to just like that. Yes? Okay, I'm with my tribe then. Because y'all understand that life is lifing. Life is lifing. And it's up to us to keep up. But what if our keep up is not a rush to get to any point, but a decision that I'm not going to move until I know? Because that Starbucks barista kind of was all up in my spirituality. And so I'm not going to move till I know that. Now, this doesn't mean you hold up the line. Don't go out and tell nobody. Reverend Andriette said, don't. This is within you, and I won't move. This is not you manifesting, declaring a stubbornness to be in the way. This is instead I'm going inward, and I'm not moving from this inner focus until I know that I walk. My next step is a God step. Yes, my next step is in principle. This one, this foot is, it's like wanting to, not till you know that when this foot, see, the diagnoses, the prognoses, the arrangement with the bank and the lender and all the stuff, your next step, I won't move until I know that I walk in the love of God. Here. See, I know some of y'all fully understand me. But I know sometimes some of y'all are working not to understand. I'm just telling you the truth. I see you. I'm making sure to not look nobody in the eye. But see, I know that sometimes it gets too up close and personal. And so there's the avoidance and there's the tendency to be like, well, I don't really understand. Am I standing still? Am I moving forward? What am I doing? Well, you're not doing nothing nohow. That's not too much, is it? Okay, that was like I would have just gone back on vacation. I came back too soon. Okay, I have to slow your roll, Rev. Slow your roll. Look. This metaphor that Ricky is offering us of not moving is not literal, except that it is. It is and it ain't, in a Bagger Vance kind of way. Look, this is how it goes. That all of our movement, even to the extent we deny it, is first in mind. First in mind. I know we deny it because we don't want to take responsibility for having thought that first. You know, there's some things we've done that we'd like to say, well, that just happened. And the world often will allow us to get away with that mess. But it's not true because nothing just happens. There is a thought that precedes it. and often a whole system of thinking. A theft doesn't just happen. There's a whole system that has to be activated to engage in the behavior. Is this making sense? So this part of not moving, you ain't gonna get to the foot for a while because it's the mental machinations. It's the emotional machinations that are gonna determine where you're gonna go. Yes? Yes? Yes. So this idea of not moving until we know has less to do with physical motion. It do and it don't. It has much more to do with our mental and emotional, that heart mind. How is it moving? What's going on in there? Does it know who it is? Whose it is would be and that's really the key. We find this with the master teachers in the world who work with youngsters, the mentors, the counselors, those master teachers, the ones that we read about that adults are still talking about when they had them in second grade. Those ones. Yes? The ones who see the soul, the potentiality, the possibility, the wholeness, where many, sometimes family at home doesn't see the wholeness. But that individual does and often can make a difference in ways. And some of y'all tuned in right now or later whenever you get here, and some in the room are doing this work even now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being the ones to be with the youngsters and see them. Yes. So there's this idea of how we move at the level of heart, how we move in our thinking. What's our thinking? Our thinking is active. That's movement. Does it make sense if I say it that way? That we are in motion in our thinking always. And that's why this is very specific. This thinking is, I'm walking in the love of God. That's something I knew. I knew I was going to be safe. I didn't know, and I thought, now this is interesting because if this strike thing happens, I don't know. Because as flights are canceled, it just means there's that many more people to rebook. And I have to tell you, I was impressed at the magic of rebooking and how that stuff shows up in text. Because I've been traveling internationally, I used to beginning in 1980, I would take a month to, go wherever I was going. And that was the time when you had to check in on your return flight. You literally had to go somewhere and check in and tell them you were really going to be on that flight to return. And so for me to just get a text that said, when I awakened, that I had been rebooked. And then the next one said that had been canceled. And then the next one said, but I was like, I'm liking it. I'm not doing nothing but reading. I have to run nowhere and have to do nothing. And especially because I had a certain calm that I was walking in the love of God, that however long this took, it was going to be all right. I was traveling by myself, and my little introvert self was just, I was just rocking it in my own way. But I thought, you know what? This ain't bad at all. If it has to be, it could be a whole lot worse. But it wasn't. And I arrived at the appointed place this morning, relatively in my right mind. And so here we is. And we're walking together in our intention to demonstrate the audacity to begin again. No matter what's happened. Would it be all right? I'm going to ask y'all at home maybe to put in the chat. Would y'all hosting the various platforms support me in this? What is something, and you don't have to spell it out in any detail, what is something that you are willing to begin again? I'm choosing my words here. So clearly, there's an experience, or while we talking about beginning again, you're just going to continue that thing. So there's something that you're not continuing, that thing right there. You're going to begin again. Are we understanding what we're working with? So this is not just a continuous forward moving because I got it and I'm gone. Yes, this ain't that. This is, Lord, I'm going to begin again. I'm going to hit reset. I'm going to do over. Make sense? Okay, if you're in the room, bring it to mind, and I'll give you an opportunity to just shout it out. You don't have to tell. Now look. Yeah, no stories. Just. But you have to articulate it to do the work. To do the work, because the mind by now might have several, or the mind might be denying that there's any. And it's really the same difference. If you got a million so you can't pick, or you can't come up with none, that's the same lie. Okay? All right, so you're in the chat with it, yes? So here's this idea. We're going to just breathe in because we got whatever it is. We're going to breathe in, hold it for a moment. Know that you walk in the love of God and exhale. Let's breathe in again. Hold and exhale. And we're bringing to mind whatever this is that we are claiming the redo for. So let's just say it out loud. Say it out loud, not needing to be on mic or put it in the chat. But be anonymous around it. Put it in code or whatever it is. Do whatever you have to do in order to stand. Yes? So I don't hear nothing here in the room. Yeah, okay, good. Good, here we go. So this is the opportunity for the let go in this. The release, yes. Release, because right where we are, the whole perfect and complete nature of the divine is surrounding and unfolding. There's no way that we walk outside of the love of God. The reason I know that is because there is only the love of God. And so right in the midst of whatever it is, whatever the error is, whatever the situation, whatever the shame, the embarrassment, whatever the discomfort is, whatever is causing the anxiety, whatever is in the way, cannot be in opposition to the love of God. And so because I know it's not in opposition, I know it is in alignment with, it is a part of, it is that the love of God is working it all out. That it is neutralizing and transmorphing and transmuting and changing and shifting as is required. So right where we are right now, in this moment, we claim a reset. We claim a redo. We claim the audacity. Yeah, I did it. And I have the audacity to begin again. To start anew. I take responsibility so that I can begin again, so that I can transform, so that my error can be transmuted in me, as me, through me. Yes. So it is an absolute perfect gratitude for the simplicity, for the way that God is, for the power in walking in the love of God, and the awareness, the willingness to not move, to not have another thought in that same direction of error, but instead to embrace a new way of thinking, a new possibility, new outcomes. Oh, yes, I walk in the love of God. Oh, in gratitude and thanksgiving. I let go. I let God. And so it is. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Yes. Yes. So look. She said, trying to look. So, Reverend D. Jacqueline, my dear sister, Jacqueline and I did our practitioner. Well, we first met in Terry Cole Whitaker. Terry Cole Whitaker was, Reverend Dr. Terry Cole Whitaker was my first teacher for religious science, for science of mind philosophy. And we met there and did our practitioner work together. And so we have a sisterhood in God, and certainly in ministry. And so she was here on June 8th. And one of the quotes that she offered from Ernest Holmes is, "The spirit of humankind is a spark of the infinite fire of life caught in human mold. It is a drop of the infinite ocean and must return to its source." Oh yes, I walk in the love of God. There's a divine oneness, baby, yes. Can y'all see all the links? Can you see the overflow? Can you see the connection? That there's one. And for those who can tune in and have a sense of oneness, that there's also, would it be okay if I said a mystery? The interesting thing, and this is what I loved about being in Dominer, is really experiencing the mystery of it. That it's hidden. That you, even when you think you're in there, there's still more. We saw a lot, but we didn't come close to seeing all the stuff. And isn't that life? So I'm certainly not going to live my life wondering what I missed. And I know I missed some stuff, meaning I didn't have access to it, meaning I couldn't have taken it in. Oh, but I'm going to ride with the stuff I did experience. You hear me? Yes. And I think that this is what life is inviting us to. The part of the divine that you can identify. Don't worry about the part that isn't coming to you, that has not illumined itself for you. That don't worry about that part. Get with the piece you got. Whatever it could be, just about what you call it. You're like, why do people call it? You heard all the different. Pick something. Work with the part that resonates for you. Ride with the one you can get in with. Because it's all one. Did that like blow the mystery? It's all one. So from wherever you are, just get in where you fit in. Sometimes I think we're so busy trying to get in on where somebody else is in it that we miss out on it entirely. Just put your foot wherever you can get it in. Just get in on that part of it so that you literally are having your personal, individualized experience of the divine. Would it be okay if I say, get you one? Get you one of those. So I don't know if it's the gong meditation. I don't know if it's the silent, it could be you and a cup of tea. Sitting out, look, it could be you hugging a tree. Gone rhyme, girl. Yes, that's the last bit of that, though. Look, I don't know what it is for you, but whatever it is, do that. Dancing, singing, being with the children, being with nature and pets and animals. You see, that's not mine. You can tell where the flow is and where it isn't, because I couldn't even think of pets. Whew. But for many people, that's where it is. Lord, them and their cats. But for the cat people, it's a whole universe of love. And I mean, y'all may have to help me out with the descriptions of it, because, I don't pretend to understand all spirituality, and it doesn't come from me that way. Mine shows up in very different ways. This is the point I'm making. You and your cat might have just like a Zen thing that I may never comprehend. But I'm not a part of that. You are. You and your, get it, y'all get it. You hear me? You and your puppy, your big dog, your little dog, whatever y'all doing. With your fish, your birds, you see what, I know y'all do a lot of different stuff. Do you intentionally as a spiritual practice? Yes. Because that's what this is saying. The spirit of humankind is the spark of the infinite fire of life. How are we missing out on this? How is the only version of this on the screen and not being lived out loud in your life? Nothing like a good getaway to come back and see the Pride video. And I saw Sylvester, who I met in the 80s, and just life. And out loud, you better bring something. Why are you here if you're not going to do you? Exactly. Because can't nobody else do you. Don't nobody else want to do you. Do it. The spirit of humankind is a spark. You are a spark of the infinite. Yes, you are. Now, would it be okay if I said act like it? You are. Absolutely. Now act like it. Act like you are and like you know you are. Because when you know you are, whatever that is, you know how to act like that. I'm just bringing it on a spiritual tip at this moment. Saying act like it. Let go of whatever is blocking and be willing. Yes, yes, yes. By now you have figured out that I absolutely love this Thomas Troward quote, that limitations surround us because we believe in our inability to do or to have what we desire. That ought to straighten it out for us right there. limitations, whatever the limitation is. You don't have to name it and certainly not claim it, but just acknowledge that there's a sense of limitation. Maybe it's around health and well-being. Maybe it's around relation. Maybe, there's a circle graph of life that we often use. So some of us could just do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. You don't have to be that specific about it. Just start wherever it is that occurs to you. Because you're going to work your way around the whole thing in due time, yes? Because that circle graph is representing one life. It's not like a number of lives. It's the life you're living right now. Yes? Troward says, whenever we say, I cannot. We are brought up short by a limitation. Can you get that? That thought brought to the level of a declaration. And I would say, Dr. Troward, that you don't have to say it out loud. It's that mindset of, there was a time when my youngest nephew and it would just break his mother's heart. He went through this little phase where he would just say, I can't. Literally, I can't. I can't. And it was like in those moments, he was somebody else. And it was sad because you'd see this divine little being. I guess he might have been 3-ish, somewhere in there. That was just this bundle of joy and talent and expression and just, all of that. But there would be these moments where it would almost be, I would say, where he was kind of consumed with another sense of self. No, not another sense of self, no sense of self. And I don't think he's out there on his own with that. I think it's a road that we traverse as well. We step from our place of power and just slide right into doubt and fear, and I can't. What Troward is telling us is the consequence of that. That's not an inconsequential move. That little slide into I can't, as easy as it can roll off the tongue, he's saying that we are brought up by a limitation, that very idea. He said, and we cease to exercise our thought power in that direction, in the direction of what we want, because we say we can't. Is that clear? Yes. Sometimes when I just want to, okay, here we go. And we cease to exercise our thought power in the direction of what we want because we believe ourselves stopped by a blank wall of impossibility. He says, whenever this occurs, we are subjected to bondage. That took me right back to Juneteenth. Because what we know about, the masses of folks who were enslaved, African Americans who were enslaved, is there were a great number of them that I often, come on, Mother Harriet, I often am willing to channel some of that positive energy, that knowing, like, where does that even come from? Generations of enslaved. So there's, at the point of the Emancipation Proclamation, there is nobody alive who was there at the beginning. It's generations at that point, okay? So although there are some folks who have not been enslaved there for generations, if you think about Africa Town, and I wrote about it, some, and there are historians who have written about it, let me say it that way, and I made mention of it in my book. But there certainly were those groups of folks who were enslaved for a very short time. But there were many, many more who were generationally enslaved. And yet, they somehow walked in the love of God. Come on, Mother Harriet. They somehow made their way. They didn't have no classes to take. There were no post-enslavement curriculum to move folks from enslavement to freedom. And they'd never been free, generationally. And yet they were able. What is that? But whatever it is, it tells us that any of us can do it. Whatever that is. It didn't come with any of the things that sometimes we think we need. You know, for a year I did, I had a coaching practice, you know, and we're humans. And it is, excuse me. It is so interesting. Sometimes how we think life got to be the way it is. You know, just the story we tell about how it is, other than I thought my way into this. I mean, I don't know that I could count the times. It's my little kiwi throat. Okay. We're gonna make this a shorter talk. Yeah. How life gets to be the way it is that we think it into existence. I'm sorry. You know, I know everybody don't want to hear that because you already picked out somebody who's responsible, and we're going to blame them. And that's not how life got to be the way it is. There are those individuals in service to you, in service to all of us, because we wouldn't move to acknowledge the love of God, some of us, if we didn't have to. And by have to, I mean if we weren't laid out on the floor. So some of us won't move until we laid out and are afraid of getting run over, I guess. Stepped on. And so that's when we call out for help. So this is a huge opportunity for a do-over, for each and every one of us to manifest, to demonstrate the audacity to begin again. Yeah, that's where it was. I was addicted. Yes, I was engaged in that behavior. I did, all that ad. That's right. I have the audacity to begin again. To start over. To know something more. And to release myself from this bondage of limitation. that Dr. Truett is talking about. You know, I gotta tag you back to Stonehenge because so often in our movement, whenever we talk about, you know, when I started this, no, it wasn't at the beginning. At some point, as things were unfolding in the world, and you know, I could hear my own inner conversation, and I could hear some of what y'all were bringing me around how life is playing out, and maybe how it looks and what it feels like to many of us, that I started doing my best to give you examples of times in history when folks were up against it and decided that that was insufficient to have them stop being who they are. So when we think about Stonehenge in 1969, now I know some of y'all wasn't even around in 1969, but I was, and I don't even need you telling me you weren't. What I'm thinking about is a time for standing and being gay or lesbian or trans, and especially, well, no, not especially any of them. In 1969, you know, there's folks who feel challenged 5 years ago. I'm not saying today, because today brings a different flavor of things to it. So 5 years ago, but in 1969, it's a kind of what we'd call a Rosa Parks moment, where the setup really is the same old, same old. Nothing, the way this story starts for Stonehenge, at least the 1969, that point in time, is, it's the same old, what did I say, Stonehenge? Bless my heart. Bless my heart. It's Stonehenge has been so on my mind. So yes, thank you, Stone Wall. Thank you. Now, y'all tuned in. Y'all know my heart. Y'all knew I meant stone wall. Okay. Now that doesn't excuse it, but I just want to say do not miss your blessing because you feel like you need to correct the little, yeah, because you knew. Okay. But I'm grateful to correct it to stone wall in New York, 1969. I'm calling it a Rosa Parks moment. It could be, you could name it after any of those folks who, it's a Harriet Tubman moment. It's a Harriet Jacobs moment. It's a moment that changes everything because somebody does something different. It's the same old, but somebody has the energetic mind and stand in a different place, in a different way. And that's what happens at Stonewall. Is they're like, not today. No. Police. This day is on. And it somehow unfolds, and that's the beginning of a change. But we don't know it in that moment. Those folks in that moment did not like huddle and say, you know what, we are changing this for children for decades. It's just in that moment, no, not today. No, we're not. We're not laying down today. We're not taking it. No. There was the usual routine. Not today. Maybe there's a calling for some not today moments in our lives. Not today. Today, I walk in the love of God. Not today. Dr. Maya, this is one of my favorite quotes of hers, that courage is the most important of all the virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. She's like, if you don't have the courage, you're not going to get through the rest of the list. And so we have to hone, I think, our sense of courage. How we be and what we do and what we allow. Last Sunday, Reverend Angelo talked about audacity and how it had to include, said that courage has everything to do with audacity from a spiritual perspective. He said it's the courage to speak when being silent is much safer. It's the courage to act when fear is rearing up, showing its fangs, and being much louder. He says audacity is the courage to take a seat at the table, even though nobody has invited you to have a seat at the table. It's standing up and being willing to be counted. Audacity is the divine insistence that you matter. So it's me insisting that I matter. You know you are absolutely essential. As I read that, I thought about a little conversation I had with United Airlines as I was, when I went to check in for the new flight. They didn't have everything that I needed them to have. And I realize in retrospect that it was a moment that I needed to know that I could speak my word for that other little part that they had somehow omitted. And no drama. It just rested on me. If I had not felt whatever that would be, that I deserved it, worthy, that I could, I wouldn't have. See, I don't know if that's clear. Yeah? Thank you, Pam. Yeah. So see, I don't know where each and every one of us needs to speak up. But I know that Dr. Maya would have said, Jimmy Baldwin has said to us, we are responsible. This is what D. Jacqueline brought us. We are responsible for the world in which we find ourselves, if only because we are the only sentient force which can change it. It rests in our hearts, in our minds, in us. Yes. Are we getting that this day? Yes. That it's truly on us. So look, we have the audacity to begin again. Let's get busy. But look, I'm going to leave you with these words of Trevor Noah, whom I just love. Oh, can I just tell you, just the clarity, the truth-telling, the flow of it, you better get a rhythm to it. So anyhow, he says, he was sharing about that one of the hardest things to learn, he says that in Bhutan, he studied with a monk. And this is what the monk said to him. He said that one of the hardest things to learn in life is that there will always be storms. However, you will never live a full life unless you realize when you are between storms. So there are always storms, but nobody is always in a storm. No matter how you act, you're not always in a storm. So he says that you'll never live a full life unless you realize when you are between storms. He says the greatest joy in life is just learning to know when you are between storms. Because when you're in a storm, you're in a storm, right? So you do whatever you have to do while you're in the storm. But when you're not in a storm and you don't realize you're not in a storm, then you're not enjoying the fact you're not in a storm. And look, there's a downside, because if we continue to live in non-existent storms, we'll just live a stormed life. It won't be a real storm, but you will create the environment, the mindset, the energy, the pain of a storm that is not happening in your life. You just have set up a system of feeling like you're in a storm or carrying on that storm-like downer energy, even though you're out of it. Is this making sense? Yes. So look. My sister friend, Talani Kennard, wrote a song, God Always Says Yes. So see, if you're not in a storm, but you pretending like you are, God always says yes. If you know you're out of a storm and you're acting like it and owning that I didn't pass through a storm, but I'm not in one now, God always says yes. Part of her lyrics, she says, every choice reflects what's in our mind. This is how life gets to be the way it is. Our success and failures are lessons in life. God gives us all that we need through Spirit. Our minds believe, our hearts help us to achieve, and God always says yes. Takia Franklin and Thomas Hughes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. God always says yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. God always says yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Sometimes we forget we have all that we need. God knows our purpose, our intent, and every deed. Living by faith and walking in the light. God always says yes, keeping love in our sight. Every choice reflects what is in our mind. Our success and failures are lessons in life. God gives us the power and all we need through Spirit. Our minds believe, our hearts help us achieve. God always says yes, yeah, yes. God always says yes, yeah, yes. Come on, Thomas. always says yes, yeah, yes. God always says yes, 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 yes. Verse. So if you're not living the life that you choose, God gives us the power to order your steps. Believe in yourself, your success is at hand. Know that your every breath is spirit. Hold tight to God's unchanging hand. Yes, God always says yes. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, God always says